Mhm. 3 verses each. Genesis 23.
Okay, this is Genesis 23, verse 1. When Sarah was 127 years old, she died at Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, in the land of Canaan. There Abraham mourned and wept for her. Then, leaving her body, he said to the Hittite elders,
Then leaving her body, no, you're supposed to read that one. Here I am, a stranger and a foreigner among you. Please sell me a piece of land so I can give my wife a proper burial. The Hittites replied to Abraham, listen, my lord, you are an honored prince among us. Choose the finest of her tombs and bury her there. No one here will refuse to help you in this way.
All right, Fred and Julia.
And Abraham bowed low before the Hittites and said, since you are willing to help me in this way, be so kind to ask Ephron, son of Zara, to let me buy his cave at
Machpelah?
Machpol, down at the end of his field. I will pay the full price in the presence of witnesses. So I will have a permanent burial place for my family.
Ephron was sitting there among the others, and he answered Abraham as the others listened, speaking publicly before all the Hittite elders of the town. No, my lord, he said to Abraham, please listen to me. I will give you the field and the cave. Here in the presence of my people, I give it to you. Go and bury your dead. Abraham again bowed low before the citizens of the land.
All right, the Olins.
And he replied to Ephron, so as everyone listened, no, listen to me. I will buy it from you. Let me pay the full price for the field so I can bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, my lord, please listen to me. The land is worth 400 pieces of silver, but what is that between friends? Go ahead and bury your dead.
And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver of Ephron for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. So the field of Ephron, which was in
Machpelah.
Bella.
Machpelah, which was before Manre, the field, and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field which were within all the surrounding borders were deeded.
To Abraham as his property in the presence of all the Hittites who came to the gate of the city. Afterward, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is in Hebron, the land of Canaan. So the field and the grave in it were deeded to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site.
All right. Anything stand out as we read this chapter? Why do you think? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Is that Pam?
He was not willing to take the land without paying for us.
Right. Why do you think that was? Why was he refusing free land?
it might have been something that he'd always be indebted to.
Okay. He didn't
And he
want to
was-
be indebted to anyone.
No,
Was he considered rich? So he could afford it?
Yeah, 400 pieces of silver is a lot of money.
Right.
It's usually 10 shekels per year is the a wage back then. So now you're talking about 40 years wages. And so let's just take that this year, that a wage would be 25,000 a year. That would be minimum wage. Actually 30 is minimum wage now. So that's at least 300,000.
Ooh.
No, sorry. Somebody just calculate that because it's gonna take a while, but it's a lot of money. One of the reasons I think, and it could be a lot of reasons, obviously the Bible doesn't say anything. Culturally, if somebody gives you land, generationally, somebody could actually say, you know what, I gave this land, nobody paid for it, so I'm taking it back.
Mhm.
Abraham wanted to make sure that this stays in his family, and he was willing to pay full price. We don't know whether that was too much or, whether that was a fair price. All we know is that was a lot of money for people back then, but he was willing to pay it. And he wanted something to be witnessed by all the elders so that there would be proof that he paid a lot of money for this, so that generationally, let's say third, fourth generation down the road, nobody can say, yeah, there's no transaction here, you got it for free, we can take it back. At this point, he can actually claim that no, this field is for my family, this tomb is my family. And so his son actually have proof, some transaction proof, that this wasn't something that was just given to him. He actually paid full price for it.
How about the Jubilee year? The 50-year thing where everything goes back to zero?
Yeah, that is not, that wasn't here yet.
Okay,
That was only during the Israelites, and the Hittites never, the Israelites didn't even keep it, much less the Hittites.
oh. So
One-
what part of the family was the Hittites? Who was the elder of that?
These were the sons of Heth, and the sons of Heth, I forgot how many generations down Heth was from Canaan. I'd have to look it up somewhere. Genesis has it somewhere, but this came straight from Canaan, and Canaan came from, I'm thinking it's Ham, but I could be wrong.
So it was the promised land though, wasn't it? Canaan?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That was the land God promised Abraham. So that's another reason why he wanted to be buried there.
Yes, that's right.
He really had this faith that this land will ultimately be his. That even though he didn't own any land in Hebron, that this land will definitely be his someday. And so he was willing to pay for any piece of land. And back then, land was not something you sell. You would really have to be in dire straits or very disrespectful, because this is something that, you keep for family generations. And so he just wanted a certain part of a field with a cave.
Uh-huh.
Now,
And
is that still evident where that is in these times when you visit Israel or wherever that is, Canaan?
yeah, that's why they're fighting over there. That's why there will never be peace in the Middle East, because the Jews want to claim the land, and the Palestinians are also fighting for it. In fact, there's no way we can go to Hebron anymore. At least I don't think so. But we went there when we were in Israel. Or did you guys go?
They
No,
wouldn't let us go either.
no,
No.
we couldn't go.
Yeah. And what it is there's a mosque and a synagogue, and you literally have to go through security to get through, and they divided it in half so that everyone can see Abraham's tomb, Abraham and Sarah's tomb.
Wow.
So, you know, one half of it is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. One half of it was Jewish and one half of it is Muslim.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a holy site. I'm not much into having worship services where there's a tomb, you know. Even at the Vatican, where, you know, part of the church is where all the popes are. I don't know, it just kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm not
Wouldn't
really
it
into
do?
worshiping where people have died. But for both the Jews and the Muslims, they're still fighting over that land.
Wow.
I think one of the things that I get from this whole chapter, even though it's not said, was, first of all, people had a lot of respect for Abraham. How do pagans respect somebody who's worshiping God? I know for me, I constantly ask myself that question. I thought it was interesting that in the tennis courts today, the discussion was how in Michigan you can get, I think it's 40-ounce gummy bears with 40-ounce gummy bears with weed
Oh,
for $12, and here you can get it for $40. And everybody was just kind of going nuts at how so unfair that was. And I'm just like in the middle of this whole thing going, I just try not to laugh because I'm like, wow, I can't really say anything in this conversation. I can't be mad or happy or whatever. It's just, and I get it that sometimes, you know, we get into groups of people who just won't believe the way we do. I thought it's interesting that, you know, the people, all the pagans around there, as far as we know, none of them were serving Jehovah, but they had such deep respect for Abraham that somehow they were willing to give him anything he asked for. He says, we will help you with whatever. It takes a tremendous amount of character to be respected by people who don't even agree with anything you're doing.
Sure.
And I believe that that is something we can all strive for, because it seems it's like it's possible. We know this because of Abraham. We also know that Jesus just hung out with prostitutes, and somehow they really like hanging out with him. And we know that prostitutes don't trust men in general, but with Jesus, they really trusted him. Same thing with tax collectors, and it seems to me that we can be Christians and still be loved by people who don't agree with us. And I think this is one of the things that I struggle with Christianity today. At the same time, because I understand where Christianity will be when it comes to Jesus coming, I understand where Christians will, you know, what kind of character Christians will have before Jesus comes. It somewhat makes sense, but it's really tough to have secular people even respecting Christians nowadays. And I think sometimes there's reasons for it. And I know for me, the lesson I get from this is we don't have to live life that way. I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate with, my influence with people who I really don't agree with their lifestyle. I don't agree with a lot of their views on things. But I want to respect them. I want to understand that obviously they don't know God. They don't care about God, but I know God cares for them. And so there's this thing of how can God use me to be able to share with these people same love and care that he has for them. Any other comments, questions? All right.
Where was,
Oh,
where was Abraham going when he buried Sarah and left?
that's the thing. He didn't know. God just said, I want you to go. He really had no idea where God was leading him. He just said, I want you to get out of Ur. Does anybody remember if he did say Canaan or not?
I don't think at first he did.
Okay. I don't remember either. And I think what God wanted, because he went all the way down to Egypt, and Egypt is way south of Canaan.
Mhm.
So in my mind, he just kept going until God says stop, or I want you to go back, stuff like that. Because the journey for Abraham was not so much to get to a place, but to actually get to know God, to get to a point in his life where he's going to trust God no matter what. And I believe we're on that journey as well. Okie doke. I am going to stop
Brenda?
recording. Yes.
On Genesis 12, when the Lord told him to go, it just told him to go to leave his country to a land he would show him. And that's verse 1. But then in verse 5, it says he went to Canaan.
Okay. There you go. Thank you. So we know where he went, but God never told him to go there, at least from what chapter 12 tells us, right? Is that what you see, Cherry?
Well, what I see is that it says, now the Lord said to Abraham, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land I will show you. And then in verse 11, verse 2 and verse 3 just talk more about his blessing. Verse 4 says, so Abraham departed and Lot went with him. And then verse 5 says, then Abraham took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son and all their possessions and gathered and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan.
Right. So I guess it can go both ways, that, God implied it was Canaan. It wasn't just said, or God just says, get out. He got out, and somehow through going through Egypt and back, he landed in Canaan.
Well, and it
But
says in verse 9, so Abraham journeyed going on still toward the south. And then the next thing is when they go to Egypt. So evidently, he didn't really stay very long in there.
no. And we know that Abimelech is, because he stopped with Abimelech. Obviously, Abimelech wanted to marry his Sarah, his wife. But
What we were looking at.
again, it does seem to me, the way I would see it is that God just said, I want you to go. And he kept going, and God kept showing him where he wanted to go until he just said, until he stopped at Canaan.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for joining us at our prayer and Bible study session as we journey through the Bible one chapter at a time. We realize that you might have some questions or comments on the things that we discussed today. And if you do, please feel free to fill out the form below. Also, if you would like to have your own Bible, please fill out the form below and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time at our prayer and Bible study session.